My new novel is a book called The Rataban Betrayal, which is an espionage thriller set in the Himalayas. It came out in 2013, and it tells the story of intrigue, conspiracy, potential for assassination in the Garhwal Himalayas, but also in Tibet as well as in Ladakh. It's a contemporary novel. The Rataban Betrayal takes place in a contemporary time frame, but it also harks back to a period in the 1960s and 70s when the United States and India collaborated covertly on putting a listening device on the top of Nanda Devi. And I used that as the sort of starting point and the catalyst for the story. And then I, of course, spun a fiction around it. Well, the Rataban Betrayal is not an attempt to give a factual rendering of the events. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It takes the idea of this listening device, which was attempted to be planted on Nanda Devi and then later planted on a couple of other mountains. But the idea of mountaineering as an espionage adventure was really where I took off from. There were several published sources. Captain M.S. Kohli has published an account of spies in the Himalayas. He was the leader of the Indian expedition that took part in that. So there are published accounts, but my book doesn't in any way try to present itself as revealing the truth. Well, I've always enjoyed reading espionage thrillers, and for many years I've written travel memoirs, fiction that's set in what might be called hill station fiction, contemporary novels that don't necessarily involve a great deal of action or suspense. And yet I enjoy reading books that contain a great deal of suspense, and so I thought, let me try my hand at that. I was also very interested in developing it as a film. So simultaneously I was working on a film script based on the Rataban Betrayal. And it's been an exciting experience. It's something that I hope to do more of because, in a sense, it opens up a whole readership that I didn't have before. People that would not have read my earlier books for one reason or another, but are interested in this kind of an action thriller. It's appealed to them, and that's been rewarding. Well, yes, and in many ways it isn't a departure for me in terms of landscape because I've written about hill stations. My own hometown of Mussoorie is actually the primary setting for this espionage novel. And so I've taken the place I've written about before, but I've put a very different kind of story. There are car chases, there are people following each other with pistols drawn through dark bungalows, and it's territory that I've explored before. But in this particular case, what I was doing was I was letting my imagination take me in a very different direction, that sort of bang-bang excitement that we find in cinema, that we find in espionage novels, and I tried to blend that with that quieter, nostalgic sense of a hill station. I think the place is very important. For those of us that live in a hill station, we understand the community that we live in as a resource for our fiction, and we draw upon each other. I'm sure Ruskin draws upon each of us as a source for some of his stories, and we also pillage and scavenge from him as well. So I think there is that sense in a hill station that this is a place of stories. These trails that may lead off into the forest, at the end of that trail there's going to be something to discover, whether it's a dead body, whether it's a beautiful woman, whether it's a treasure at the end of the rainbow. There's always that sense that the trails in the mountains will lead us somewhere to something, some kind of story. I think that the thing that I've attempted, and of course that's not for me to judge, it's for whoever reads the book to judge, but what I've tried to do is write what I would call a literary thriller, not a thriller that is all bang bang and car chases, but something that has literary value as well as a good deal of suspense. And I hope that in some way I've been able to bridge the gap between those two branches of literature through this book. I think the target audience will be very broad. I mean, I think that it's certainly a book that will appeal to younger readers, I hope, because there is a certain amount of action. There's everything from sex scenes to murders and all of that, which will hopefully keep them awake. But I think also it should appeal to general readers who are simply interested in a good story set in the Himalayas.